What if I told you that no one is coming to save you? No one is sitting around planning how to make your life easier. No one is waiting to hand you success, happiness or peace. Harsh, maybe. But freeing? Absolutely. We spend so much of our lives waiting for the right moment, the perfect opportunity for someone to give us permission to take action. But the truth is, life does not wait for you. It keeps moving, indifferent to your hesitation, unconcerned with your fears. The Buddha once said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." This is not a punishment, it is an invitation. An invitation to step forward, to take control, to stop seeking validation from the world and start seeking wisdom from within. So ask yourself, how much longer will you wait? Will you keep standing still, hoping the universe aligns perfectly in your favor? Or will you take the first step, knowing that clarity comes through movement, that strength is built through effort, and that the only way forward is through action? Because in the end, the greatest truth is this: you are the creator of your own life, and the time to begin is now. The illusion of external validation. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to seek validation. We look to parents, teachers, and society, hoping for permission to follow our dreams. We hesitate, wondering, am I good enough? Am I ready? The Buddha taught that attachment to external validation is a cause of suffering. He said, "Do not seek refuge in others. Be a lamp unto yourself." This need for approval can become a prison, an invisible cage made of expectations and silent judgments. Think about a child who paints a picture. If that child is praised, they beam with joy, believing they are talented. But if no one notices, or worse, if they are criticized, they may conclude that they are not good enough. And so, from an early age, we learn to measure our worth by the reactions of others, rather than by the purity of our own efforts. But life does not wait for applause. Imagine a lotus flower. It does not hesitate, questioning whether the world will admire it. It does not seek permission to bloom. It grows from the mud, rises through murky waters, and unfolds in radiant beauty, indifferent to whether anyone is watching. You too must bloom where you are planted, without waiting for someone to tell you it is time. A Zen master once told the story of a young monk who struggled with self-doubt. "Master," he said, "how do I know if I am on the right path? No one acknowledges my progress." The master led him to a bamboo grove and pointed at a tall, towering stalk. That bamboo does not grow because someone praises it. It grows because that is its nature. Stop waiting for others to approve of your journey. The path is yours to walk. Consider the great artists, thinkers, and leaders throughout history. Van Gogh never sold a painting in his lifetime, yet his work is now revered. The Buddha himself abandoned the life expected of him to seek enlightenment, despite the disapproval of his family. They did not wait for validation. They acted, driven by an inner calling. Too often, we silence ourselves, fearing judgment. We abandon dreams because no one else sees their worth. But the most beautiful creations, the most profound journeys, begin in solitude. Your worth is not determined by applause or criticism, but by the authenticity of your actions. Do not live for approval, for it is fleeting. What is praised today may be forgotten tomorrow. Seek instead to align with your own truth. If you must seek validation, let it come from within, from knowing that you are walking your path with integrity, courage, and unwavering determination. Taking the first step. Even when you feel unready, there is a common myth that we must feel confident before we take action, that we must have absolute certainty before beginning. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that clarity comes through action, not before it. Just as a traveler does not see the entire road before they begin their journey, we must take the first step, even when we feel unsure. Think of a young monk, hesitant to enter meditation for fear that his mind is too restless. He tells his teacher, "I will meditate when my thoughts are still." The master simply smiles and says, "Ah, but how will you calm the mind without practice?" And so the monk sits. He struggles, but over time, he finds stillness. The same is true for us. We must begin, even when we feel unready. Readiness is an illusion. In another story, a farmer once approached the Buddha, lamenting that he had too many problems. His crops were unpredictable, his children were disobedient, his wife often disagreed with him. He asked the Buddha how he could rid himself of these difficulties. The Buddha listened patiently and then replied, "I cannot take away your problems. You will always have 83 problems. And if you work hard to solve one, another will soon take its place." The farmer, frustrated, asked, "Then what is the point? Why should I even try?" The Buddha smiled and said, "Because your 84th problem is that you believe you should have none. The point is clear. There is no perfect moment. No day will arrive when all the stars align, when every fear dissipates, when you feel 100% ready. If you wait for that moment, you will wait forever. Instead, embrace the uncertainty. Step forward, even if your knees shake, even if doubt lingers in the corners of your mind. Because the truth is, confidence is not the prerequisite for action. It is the result of it. Consider the first time you learned to ride a bicycle. You did not wait until you were an expert cyclist before hopping on. You climbed onto the seat, felt the wobble, gripped the handlebars tightly, and pushed forward. You fell, you stumbled, but you kept going. And through the doing, you found your balance. Life works the same way. The only way to master something is to begin it. Many of us hesitate because we fear failure. We convince ourselves that we must have a flawless plan before we begin. But in Buddhism, failure is not something to be avoided. It is a teacher. It is the sculptor that chisels away our doubts, shaping us into something stronger. A potter does not craft a perfect bowl on their first try. They mold, they reshape, they break, and refine. The same goes for us. You may not know exactly how your journey will unfold, and that is okay. The road will reveal itself with each step. Trust the process. The first step is not about knowing the entire path. It is about having the courage to begin walking it. The weight of others' opinions. Many of us are paralyzed by the fear of judgment. We hold back because we are afraid of what others will think. But consider this, people are far too consumed with their own worries to be thinking about you. And even if they are judging, what does it truly matter? A Zen story tells of a man riding a donkey into town. As he walks beside the animal, passers-by mock him, saying, "Fool, why are you walking when you have a donkey?" So he climbs onto the donkey's back. Then others sneer, "Cruel man, you burden the poor animal." So he carries the donkey on his shoulders. The crowd erupts in laughter. Exhausted, he finally realizes, no matter what I do, people will always have opinions, but they are just that. Opinions. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble. If they were to take every critique to heart, the nose should be smaller, the hands are too big. They would never complete their masterpiece. They would chip away endlessly, trying to please everyone, until nothing remained but dust. Your life is that sculpture. If you keep carving away parts of yourself to fit the expectations of others, what will be left of you? A wise monk once told his student, "If you carry others' words like stones in your pocket, Soon you will be too weighed down to walk your own path. The truth is, people will always have something to say. Some will praise, some will criticize, and some will whisper their doubts behind your back. But none of these voices should dictate your journey. They are merely background noise, echoes that fade with time. What remains is your own voice, your purpose, your truth, your direction. Consider a river. It flows freely, carving through mountains, shaping valleys, unbothered by the rocks that try to impede its path. The river does not stop to explain itself, nor does it seek approval to continue moving forward. It simply flows. You must do the same. Ask yourself how much of your energy has been spent worrying about what others think. How many dreams have you postponed? How many words left unspoken? How many steps left untaken, simply because you feared the opinions of those who do not walk in your shoes? Liberate yourself from the weight of what others think. Their words will not change your path unless you allow them to. Your life is yours alone. You are the only one who will live with the choices you make, the risks you take, and the dreams you chase. So stop waiting for approval. Stop seeking validation from those who will never understand your journey. Walk your path with confidence. Let go of the fear. And remember, the only opinion that truly matters is the one you hold about yourself. The trap of motivation and the power of discipline. Motivation is fleeting. One day you feel inspired. The next, you do not. The Buddha understood this well, which is why he emphasized right effort, a pillar of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right effort means showing up, even when you do not feel like it. It means taking action not because you are motivated, but because it must be done. Consider a great river. It does not stop flowing just because a rock obstructs its path. It moves around it, over it, or through it. In the same way, we must cultivate discipline. Waiting to feel motivated is like waiting for the wind to always be in your favor before setting sail. A true navigator learns to adjust their sails, no matter the direction of the wind. A young disciple once approached his Zen master and asked, "Master, how do I remain motivated every day?" The master smiled and handed him a bucket. "Go draw water from the well." The student obeyed. The next day, the master gave him the same task. This continued for weeks until the disciple grew frustrated. "Why do you keep asking me to fetch water?" he finally asked. The master simply responded, "Did you stop needing water?" The lesson was clear. Just as we do not question the necessity of drinking water every day, we should not question the need to act, even when inspiration is absent. We do not wait until we feel thirsty to drink. We drink to sustain ourselves. Likewise, we do not wait for motivation to act. We act to sustain progress. Think of a farmer tending to their crops. They do not sow seeds only on days when they feel like it. They work the fields every day, rain or shine, because they understand that the harvest depends on their consistent effort. Success is the same. It is not built on bursts of inspiration, but on steady, disciplined action, repeated day after day. Many of us struggle with procrastination because we believe we must feel ready before we begin. But readiness is an illusion. If a sculptor waited for the perfect moment to strike the chisel, no statue would ever be carved. If a musician waited for the perfect mood to practice, no melody would ever be played. The key is to begin, to show up, to do the work regardless of feeling. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to detach from fleeting emotions and instead root ourselves in action. Do not be a slave to your moods, a wise monk once said. Be a master of your habits. Discipline is not about force, it is about freedom. The freedom to move forward without waiting for the unreliable push of motivation. The freedom to make progress even when the mind resists. Imagine standing before a staircase in complete darkness. You cannot see the top, nor can you see the entire path, but you can see the next step. That is all you need. The discipline to take one step at a time, without needing to see the entire way, is what separates those who succeed from those who remain stuck in hesitation. So ask yourself, are you waiting for motivation to strike? Or are you willing to take action, even when the desire is absent? The difference between those who achieve and those who dream is simple. The achievers act regardless of how they feel. Motivation may come and go, but discipline is always within your control. Fear of failure, a lesson in impermanence. Many people never begin because they fear failure. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. The Buddha taught impermanence, the idea that all things change, evolve, and pass away. Failure is just a step in the process of growth. It is not a dead end. It is a lesson. A monk once asked his teacher, "Master, how do I avoid failure?" The teacher replied, "By never trying." The monk thought for a moment and then asked, "But Master, if I never try, I will never grow." The teacher nodded. Exactly. Each mistake is a stepping stone. Each misstep is a part of the path. The only true failure is refusing to walk it at all. There is a story of an old potter in a small village. He spent his days shaping clay, molding it into beautiful vases and bowls. But his apprentice, a young man eager to learn, hesitated to touch the clay. "What if I ruin it? What if it cracks?" he worried. The old potter simply smiled and handed him a lump of clay. "Then you will shape it again," he said. Day after day the apprentice tried. His first pots were misshapen. His vases cracked in the kiln. Frustration filled his heart, and he considered giving up. But the potter reminded him, "Every great artisan was once a beginner. The clay does not remember your failures, only your hands do." And so he continued. Over time his hands became steady, his work refined. The pots that once shattered became masterpieces. The same is true for life. We hesitate, fearing the cracks and imperfections that may come. But failure is not the end. It is the raw material of growth. Like clay, we are shaped by every attempt, every mistake, and every lesson learned along the way. Consider a tree growing in the wild. When a storm comes, it does not collapse in fear of losing its leaves. It bends, it sways, it adapts. When spring arrives, new leaves grow. Nature embraces impermanence, and so must we. Too often, people convince themselves that if they fail once, they are doomed to fail forever. But history tells a different story. Thomas Edison, when asked about his many failed attempts at creating the light bulb, famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His success was not despite failure. It was because of it. In Buddhism, impermanence is not something to fear. It is a reminder that nothing remains fixed, not our struggles, not our setbacks, not even our failures. Just as the river carves its way through rock, persistence smooths the rough edges of our journey. The challenge is not in avoiding failure, but in learning to embrace it as part of the path. So, the next time you hesitate because of fear, ask yourself, what if failure is not the end? What if it is the beginning of something greater? Take the step, shape the clay. Let the process mold you into the person you are meant to be. The illusion of time and the urgency of now. One of the greatest delusions we cling to is the belief that we have time. I will start tomorrow, next week, next year. But time is uncertain. The Buddha's last words were, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence." Imagine an old man sitting by his window, staring out at the world he once dreamed of exploring. He had always planned to travel, to paint, to write his book. But there was always something: work, obligations, the illusion that there would be more time. Now his body is frail, his hands unsteady. The regret is not in the things he attempted and failed, but in the things he never dared to begin. A dying man does not mourn his failures. He mourns the chances he let slip away, the moments he postponed until they no longer existed. He does not regret the mistakes he made, but the steps he never took. He realizes too late that the right time never arrives. It must be seized. There is an ancient parable about a disciple who asked his master, "When should I begin my practice?" The master smiled and replied, "Were you promised tomorrow?" The disciple was puzzled, but the truth settled in like a stone in a pond. He had been waiting, assuming there would always be another day, but life offers no guarantees. The clock does not pause, and every moment that slips by is one we will never get back. Consider the cherry blossom, so breathtakingly beautiful, yet fleeting. It blooms in full brilliance for only a short while before its petals fall, carried away by the wind. But the cherry blossom does not hesitate. It does not delay its bloom, waiting for the perfect season. It simply embraces its moment, knowing impermanence is part of existence. And so must we. Too many of us act as if we are rehearsing for some future life, delaying joy, love and passion, as if we are guaranteed endless tomorrows. But ask yourself, if not now, when? How many ideas have withered because you told yourself you would act someday? How many relationships have faded because you thought you had time to fix them later? How many adventures, experiences, and opportunities have been lost to the false promise of another day? The truth is, the right time will never arrive because it is already here. There is no perfect moment, no divine sign, no assurance that the future will be waiting. The only certainty is the present and what you choose to do with it. A traveler standing at the edge of a great river does not wait for the waters to part. He steps forward and begins his journey. In the same way, you must begin now. Write the first page, make the call, take the risk, because tomorrow is not promised, and every second wasted is a second you will never reclaim. So do not let fear or hesitation chain you to the illusion of time. The most dangerous words you can tell yourself are, "I will do it later." Later is a mirage, an ever-receding horizon. The right time is not ahead of you, it is here in this very breath, in this very moment. Final reflection. Be the architect of your own life. At the end of this journey, no one else will have walked this path for you. No one will have lifted your feet and placed them on the road. No one else will have lived your life, felt your joys, or carried the weight of your regrets. This path belongs to you, and you alone. So what will you choose? Will you sit idly, waiting for the stars to align, hoping for a moment when everything feels perfect? Or will you rise, step forward, and trust that the path will reveal itself with every footstep you take? The truth is, clarity does not come before action, it emerges from it. The road ahead may not always be clear, but the act of walking will shape the way. You do not need permission, you do not need validation, you do not need the approval of the world to begin. What you need is the courage to start, the discipline to continue, and the resilience to keep going even when the road gets steep. Because the only way forward is through. You are the architect of your own life. Every choice you make lays another stone in the foundation of your future. Every action, no matter how small, is a step toward something greater. Do not waste your days waiting. Build, create, and step into the life you were meant to live. If this message has resonated with you, if you feel the call to take action, to step beyond fear and embrace your path, then let this be your sign. Begin today, and if you found value in this journey, consider subscribing to this channel. Join us as we continue exploring the wisdom that guides us to a more mindful, fulfilling life. The path is yours. Now take the first step.